Hello, this is Ubuntu Gicha. When installing Ubuntu, selecting the extended selection installs a variety of miscellaneous applications that are rarely used. However, if you choose the default selection, only the essential applications are installed minimally. There are also no mail clients, LibreOffice, video players, etc. I am personally more satisfied because I can install only the applications I prefer in a clean manner. Among the missing applications, Thunderbird and Showtime are the ones that need to be installed. However, since many people use webmail more these days and prefer online services like YouTube or Netflix over local files for videos, it seems likely that many people do not feel the need for these applications. I will install Thunderbird from the App Center. POP3 works by deleting mail from the server once it is retrieved to the mail client, which is inconvenient when using multiple devices. This is why webmail has become so widespread. However, if you are using a mail server that supports IMAP, a mail client like Thunderbird can be more convenient than webmail. Canonical prioritizes Snap for automatic updates and sandbox security. Since the mail client also needs to be mindful of security, Thunderbird is supported only as a Snap package. Thunderbird is such a famous application that you have likely already seen its execution screen. I will use a screenshot from the App Center instead. Totem, which was provided by default up to Ubuntu 24.04 LTS, was somewhat lacking, so users previously installed VLC or MPV. However, starting with Ubuntu 26.04 LTS, the default video player has changed to the modern and streamlined Showtime, eliminating the need for separate third-party applications. Although it is Ubuntu's default video player, it is installed only if you install Ubuntu with the extended selection. If you installed Ubuntu with the default selection, you can install it as a Debian package. While Snap packages are well maintained in the App Center, images for Debian packages are often missing. Since the execution screen of Showtime is also missing, I will show a screenshot from a site introducing no maps instead. Personally, I recommend WPS for Office applications on Linux. You can download the deb file from the WPS website. WPS supports Linux as well as Windows and macOS. LibreOffice, which is installed alongside the Ubuntu distribution when using the extended selection, feels somewhat unfamiliar to use and has an outdated UI. WPS and OnlyOffice are more user-friendly. I personally recommend WPS. OnlyOffice runs somewhat slowly, which can feel a bit frustrating. Double-clicking the downloaded deb file launches the App Center. When installing packages outside the App Center, a warning is displayed advising you to verify trustworthiness before proceeding, as they may be unsafe. I will click the Install button. A confirmation window appears once again asking if the package is trusted. While MS Office is the most widely used Office application, it only supports Windows and macOS, so you must use alternative applications on Linux. Fortunately, as MS Office's file format was released as an international standard in the Office OpenXML format, the output from alternative Office applications has become nearly identical to MS Office. Firefox is installed by default as the web browser, but since Chrome has the highest market share, there is a need to use Chrome. You can download the deb file for Chrome from the Google website. Double-clicking the deb file will launch the App Center, and the installation will proceed there. Since the Chrome browser is also a very famous application and I have already covered installing deb files via the App Center, I will skip the installation of Chrome due to time constraints. GIMP is an open-source application that replaces Adobe Photoshop, which holds an absolute position in the graphic editing tool market. Since it does not require installation via a specific Debian package, I will install it via the Snap package. It is an application with a long history and high level of completeness, to the extent that public educational institutions sometimes teach GIMP instead of Photoshop, and it is widely used by graphic designers in practice. Due to time constraints, I will replace the execution screen with a screenshot from the App Center. While GIMP edits bitmap images, Inkscape can edit vector images. Since Inkscape also does not require a specific package, I will install it via the Snap package. It is an open-source application that enables working with SVG files. Due to time constraints, I will replace the execution screen with a screenshot from the App Center. I recommend Audacity as an audio editing tool. Since there is no specific package requirement, I will install it via the Snap package. While it may be somewhat lacking for professional composition and editing, it is an open-source application capable of basic mixing. Due to time constraints, I will replace the execution screen of Audacity with a screenshot from the App Center. Shotcut is a video editing tool. Since there is no need to be particular about the package, I will install it using the Snap package. Shotcut is a tool that works based on MLT, an open-source multimedia framework. Since many video editors also support MLT, they can be used interchangeably for projects you are working on. Due to time constraints, I will also replace the execution screen of Shotcut with a screenshot from the App Center. Ubuntu's default text editor is GNOME Text Editor. It is an application rebuilt on GTK4 from the GTK3 base gedit. It is a more modern, standard, and simple editor tailored to the basic user environment. However, because GNOME Text Editor fails to meet several basic functional requirements, I am currently using Sublime Text. I will now configure the settings for GNOME Text Editor. Personally, I prefer to have line numbers visible, and I also like to highlight the current line. I prefer using tabs rather than spaces for indentation. In the past, the default tab size was 8 spaces, but nowadays 4 spaces are used as the standard. This is because it allows for clear indentation without wasting horizontal space. While only very basic settings are available, additional document configurations are handled through mode lines, editor config, etc. However, it is quite disappointing that there is no feature to indicate with a symbol whether whitespace is a blank space or a tab. The critical issue is that it fails to properly display tab stop positions. Since tab is a control character that moves based on a stop position, a blank space equal to the stop position should be displayed between characters. I will fill it in by adding one character at a time before the tab. Because the tab size is set to 4 spaces, when all 4 stop positions are filled, another 4 spaces of blank space should be displayed. However, the characters are joined together without any gaps, making it appear as if the text was written continuously without using tabs. GNOME Text Editor is an editor that replaces gedit and has been designed to be more modern. However, there are still areas for improvement, and due to its failure to display whitespace, I recommend Sublime Text as an alternative to GNOME Text Editor. Since Sublime Text is covered in detail in a separate video, I will focus only on the installation here. If you access the address sublimetext.com, you will see an install button suitable for your operating system. Since I will be installing it on Ubuntu, I will refer to the installation method in apt. You need to install a GPG key. I will copy the CLI command for installing the GPG key. I will launch the terminal emulator. I will paste the copied command and execute it. I will register the repository from the stability channel. I will paste the copied command and register the repository. I will apply the registered repository through an apt update. I will install Sublime Text via apt. If you access the address sublimemerge.com, you will see a download or install button suitable for your operating system. If you are in an Ubuntu environment, you can install it via apt. You need to install the GPG key and register the repository on the stable channel before installation. However, since it uses the same repository as Sublime Text, if you have already installed Sublime Text, you can skip this step and install it directly. I will install Sublime Merge directly using apt. Sublime Merge is a git GUI and merge tool from Sublime HQ, the creators of Sublime Text. It's a GUI git management tool based on the same high-performance cross-platform GUI toolkit and syntax highlighting engine used in Sublime Text. As non-standard environments are gradually improving, it is now possible to use Ubuntu alone with minimal inconvenience, so the need to multi-boot into Windows is gradually disappearing. However, if you need to verify certain Windows-only environments, you can resolve this by installing Windows on a virtual machine. Representative open-source virtual machines that can be installed on Ubuntu include VirtualBox and QEMU. While VirtualBox feels somewhat heavy, QEMU runs lightly using KVM, almost at the level of native bare metal, but some display rendering lag can be bothersome. To put it another way, compared to VirtualBox, QEMU runs smoothly without stuttering, but the display may appear somewhat choppy. Since hardware specifications have improved these days, VirtualBox does not feel particularly heavy, and its intuitive and easy-to-use GUI can be a more attractive feature. VirtualBox can be installed by downloading the deb file or by registering a repository. I will cover VirtualBox in detail in a separate video and will omit it here. A WPS execution icon appears on the desktop, but Ubuntu does not allow launching from desktop icons for security reasons. While enabling execution would make it possible, I prefer a minimalist aesthetic and do not like having a cluttered array of icons on the desktop. Although the trend these days is to avoid creating desktop launch icons, many Windows applications, including MS Office, still have them. Since WPS positions itself as a replacement for MS Office, it appears they created a desktop icon similar to MS Office, but I will remove it. I will unpin App Center from the dock. Since I will only use it occasionally to install applications, I will clear the space to display more other applications. You can easily pin desired applications to the dock from the Applications menu. You can pin them to the dock using the Context menu or by dragging and dropping them onto the dock. You can also easily change the order of applications in the dock. Thank you for watching.